Welcome. I'm Bill Newell, and joining us at this time is Nate Bryant, who is Vice President, Chief of Staff over at Salem State University under President John Keenan. Dr. Bryant, always good talking with you. You are now, or will be, the interim president at North Shore Community College, and congratulations on that.
Thank you very much, Bill, and thanks for having me.
Nate, I want to talk to you about the new job at North Shore Community College and making a transition at a time like this. So with the coronavirus and all of the upheaval that it is doing to education, it's got to be. There's got to be so much up in the air on this piece, right?
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me, Bill. Yeah, it's certainly it's challenging times, and I think what makes it easier to bear is the students at North Shore Community College are not so different than the students at Salem State. Obviously, Salem State's a 4-year and North Shore is a 2-year, so there are some differences there. But students are having the same challenges. Faculty are having the same challenges going with remote, online. So I actually welcome the opportunity and the challenge.
No, I'm sure you do, and I think that the North Shore Community College. I've talked with President Gentile a number of times over the years, and it's an evolving situation there, and they have their own challenges, like all institutions and businesses have. But again, I think in light of what we're seeing now, I think even more challenges will be thrown upon not just North Shore Community College, but even where you're at right now with Salem State University.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is uncharted waters. Every day is different. You cannot predict the future, so you almost have to have a series of plans depending upon, what we hear from the federal government or even from our governor and from the CDC. And so it's you basically have to be flexible and have a number of plans in your pocket depending upon what's going to be kind of mandated for us come summer and fall, actually.
Another thing that I like is that in the last several years, I know North Shore and Salem State have been collaborating on a number of different initiatives. So I got to think with their new leader over at North Shore Community College, that might just continue.
Sure. I mean, that was, I think, one of the advantages I did have is, to your point, Bill, we have been collaborating for many, many years. And this past year, we actually had a deeper collaboration. It's called a seamless, I'm going to get it wrong, seamless pathways partnership. Got it. And what it really was a way to really bring both institutions even closer together. And so some of the things that we've done, we've done the traditional, transfer credit agreements. If you take X courses at North Shore, it'll transfer to Salem State. We wanted to go deeper. So we are doing things like we're allowing North Shore Community College students to live in our residence halls. We're allowing them to participate in some of our extracurricular activities. And so the time is actually perfect because the majority of our transfer students come from North Shore. And so we want to make sure their path to Salem State is as seamless as possible. So any way that we can strengthen those relationships, everything is on the table, and I'm going to be certainly trying to foster more deeper relationships because, again, it's our number one feeder school, and they're our neighbors, and our students are very similar. So it just makes sense.
I want to just throw one question at you regarding your role at Salem State University. I imagine as chief of staff, you're involved with everything. There's nothing that really doesn't come, in front of you in some way, I imagine.
It does. It's interesting because when President Keenan reached out to me 2.5 years ago, and said, "Hey, would you be interested in being my chief of staff?" My first question was, "What does a chief of staff do?" I had no idea. And he said, it's a number of things that, helping kind of lead his initiatives, putting out fires, being kind of the working with external and community partners. And so the great thing about the position is two things. Number one, every day is different. Because you'll walk into work with an idea that you've got to get these things done, but invariably something happens that kind of shifts you off course, so you got to put out a fire. And President Keenan has been very gracious in allowing me to get involved in just about everything that if there's something I'm interested in, I can say, hey, I'd like to really, sink my teeth into this. He's been very supportive. And so it's, and I've been there for so long, Bill, that I haven't burnt any bridges. So if there's an issue, I can pick up the phone and I can call someone and say, hey, I'm having a problem. Can you help me out? And I think they genuinely want to help me, not because of my title, but because of the relationships I've, endured over the past 32 years. So it really, I mean, I love the job. I love the folks at Salem State. So it's been a great run.
It has. I mean, that college, the university now has changed so much in the last decade to 15 years physically, and it's become, a very attractive, campus as in the state college system. So a lot has changed at Salem State for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I've been there. I've been fortunate to be there through many of 32 years. So I have seen a lot of the growth. And I've been able to participate in a lot of that growth in different levels. So again, it's one of those things where I wasn't looking to be a president. I'm very happy at Salem State. They've been very good to me. I've served in a number of capacities, so I've gotten to work with, students and faculty and staff, and work with community partners. So I was really happy where I was. But then when President Gentile announced her retirement, and a number of people, reached out to me and said, hey, you should, think about applying for the presidency. Never crossed my mind, Bill. But what happens is the more and more people start saying, hey, you should think about this, and my president being chief among them, quite frankly. You kind of look back at what you've done and you reflect on what you've done and you say, I'm looking at my resume, my portfolio, and saying, I've done so much where I think I actually could lead an institution, and where, and it's all about the right fit. Again, I'm not looking to be a president per se, but when you look at North Shore and you look at Salem State, you look at the relationship, you look at the students, you look at the proximity, it just all kind of came together, and it was the perfect fit for me. So I said, what the heck, let me give it a shot.
What are the challenges? Yeah, what are the challenges that you see, Nate, at going to North Shore Community College, especially again at this time?
Yeah, it's so two things. Number one, even prior to COVID, I'm really concerned about the increasing cost of higher ed. I mean, it's just you talk about keeping up with inflation. It has so far surpassed inflation that really concerns me. So that was pre-COVID, and that remains. The thing I think that's really worrisome is getting our students, and I'll say North Shore and Salem State for that matter, getting our students to really appreciate and be interested in remote learning. It's for our type of students, I call them high touch. So they need lots of support and they want to be able to talk to someone. And so into this online learning challenge for some, and not to mention the fact that we kind of threw this thing together in a matter of weeks, so we didn't really have a lot of time to process this. I mean, we do have some courses that are online, of course, but the majority of students were taking kind of in-seat classes. And so my concern is if there's going to be some form of online learning in the fall, I just hope our students can hang in there and get the support they need so that they can persevere, because it's a different way of learning. Not to mention, some of our students have challenges with technology, like having access to laptops, even having access to Wi-Fi. And so you want to make sure there's equity. Everyone has an ample opportunity to access the course materials. So I'm really concerned about that, particularly for the fall.
I remember doing some work with Dr. Wayne Burton, the former president at North Shore Community College, and talking with him. And one of the things he was advocating for years ago was basically free community college for students, because it's an extension of grade 12, knowing that you really need to get 2 more years of experience for certain trades and skills and sets that you look at the North Shore curriculum that is so essential for a quality workforce in our area or anywhere. And I just feel that, I felt that we were creeping closer to that, goal at some point, but I just think that now that budgets are blown up, we're going to be farther away from that piece. But it speaks to the need of because I've worked with a lot of students over the years that, they could get to North Shore Community College, they could get in, and it would be great for them, but there's obstacles for them to complete the 2 years or whatever the program is they're seeking.
Right. And so, another area where I think it's a strength of mine, and North Shore has done well over the years, particularly recently, is with fundraising. I mean, it's, we receive a state appropriation, of course, as a state college. But given COVID and the budgetary challenges that the Commonwealth's going to have, relying on that state appropriation like we used to is probably not realistic. And so you have to find other ways to generate revenue. And you don't want to, one of the ways you don't want to find it is by, putting it on the backs of the students by increasing tuition and fees. And so what remains, I think it's philanthropy. It's really reaching out and cultivating donors who have a passion for higher education, understanding the mission and the purpose and what it can do for families. And so I'm going to be particularly interested in seeing what we can do in the fundraising arena.
Well, I could probably fire questions at you all day long here, Nate. I won't keep you too long, but I want to ask you this. We all come from different backgrounds. You have an athletic background. You're still an official basketball referee, and I might add a very good basketball referee at that. And
you're one of the few who believe in that. I appreciate it.
I'm not a coach, so yeah, I see bad calls all the time. But I always wonder, I always look at leadership, and I say, so you're from sports, athletics, you're a referee. It's a foul, it's not a foul, or whatever. It's a clean, even though you wear the black and white stripes, it's not always black and white, even in refereeing for sure. But I'm just wondering, taking that athletic background and taking it into leadership at a community college, I think those are great experiences to have for leaders, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've said this from day one in terms of being on a team, what you learn from being on a team in terms of kind of working together for the same goal. I hate to use the word sacrifice because that sounds like you're giving something up, but you all recognize your role and you all recognize that there's a goal to try to attain. And so doing your part to reach that goal, I think that comes from being on a team. I think you develop leadership skills because there are silent leaders and there are vocal leaders. Both play a role. I think I can certainly use that when moving on to the presidency. I look at basketball and officiating. It's about, good judgment. It's about being consistent and also about being communicative. You don't want to, my style is I'm not combative. If a coach has a question about a call, I'm more than happy to have the conversation. I'm not going to conversate for the whole game. But if they're going to do it in a respectful manner, I'm more than happy to oblige. And those are things, again, I can use those things when I go into being a presidency. So there's no doubt in my, professional growth, athletics has played a major role for sure.
Well, hopefully you don't have to deal with some of those basketball coaches when you show up over at North Shore Community College on July 1st. Yeah. Nate, is there anything else you want to share with us at all about, again, accepting this position over at North Shore?
Bill, I guess the only thing I would say is, I really am honored that I was even considered because, as I said earlier, I wasn't necessarily looking for it. I look at my career and I think back to, some of the things that got me to where I was. And, I wish I could say it was glamorous and, but really it's about relationships. And so I've been able to, you mentioned Wayne Burton, for instance. When Wayne was here at Dean of the School of Business at Salem State, I got to know Wayne. I was the director of admissions. So worked closely with him. So there are a number of folks who have been so instrumental in my growth. And I didn't even know it back then. You meet people, you establish a relationship, and then you take some of the things that you've learned from them and you apply it, as you move forward. So this has been, I guess what I want to say is there's been so many people who have been instrumental in my professional growth and development and have helped me to get to this point. So it's an honor. It really is.
Well, I believe North Shore Community College is a real treasure to have on the North Shore. It really is for so many young people, for sure. And I feel good that it's in good hands still at the school. And best of luck to you, Nate. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to join us.
Bill, it's been absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for thinking of me.